Well, hello everybody. It's Marcus here, and welcome to another episode of the Commercial Photographer Podcast. Well, you'll be glad to hear this week we've got a guest. I've got on Vicky Gray. Vicky is from Blue Mango Creative, a website designer. So, Vicky, how are you doing?
Oh, hi, Marcus. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And I know we've been connected on the old LinkedIn for a little while now, and we both comment on each other's posts. So I know the kind of work you do. Um, Tell me about what you do, though, for just for our listeners. What kind of things do you do?
Well, actually, I set up my business 26 years ago, straight from
Yeah.
university, as a graphic designer, so print designer and logo designer. And I've had to evolve my business over time and over the years. And so now I'm a Squarespace website designer, specializing in thoughtful branding, actually.
Love it. I love it. And I use Squarespace myself as well. I know it's a great, it's a fairly easy to get something up there, but there's quite a lot under the hood that you can do with it these days, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I suppose the background is my background is WordPress in terms of working with developers, and
Right.
there's various reasons why I moved over to the Squarespace platform. That's a mouthful. But for me, it's about having that thoughtful branding. So really going through that process of what is the character of the business, what are my clients' competitors, and who are their audience, to really have a website that is branded and truly reflects them at a much deeper level, but also attracts their ideal client. And then
Gotcha.
the website has got to work really, really well for the user visiting too.
Do you work with any particular type of businesses, Vicky? Do you have a niche or anything?
I love variety. I love variety to my work. You know, it could be one day I'm doing a logo design, another day I'm doing branding, another day I'm creating a website. And it's the same with the businesses that I work with. It's across sectors really. So I work with pubs and hotels. I work
Hmm.
with a lot of coaches and consultants. I have worked with photographers.
Yeah.
So a real spectrum of, I just love my business and I love the work and I love the variety that it brings.
Whereabouts are you based, Vicky?
I'm based in the Cotswolds, in the North
Oh, lovely.
Cotswolds,
Very
in
nice.
a little town called Northleach. Now, some of you might know Northleach because the series This Country was filmed here.
Oh, right. Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Well, I know that area well. I play in a wedding band, so we're often doing quite a lot of, there's quite a lot of wedding venues
Ah,
around that way. So yeah.
yes, there are.
Yeah. So you're not too far from me. So no particular niche. But what surprised me, what you were saying there, is that you're real hands-on when you work with your clients. That you're doing the branding, you're doing logo design as
Mm,
well as the
mm.
website.
That's right. So quite often, people come to me and they just want a website, and then
Hmm.
I delve down deeper and I say, okay, well, what is it you don't like about your current website? And quite often they'll say, well, the colours and the fonts don't reflect who we are anymore. The images are outdated. I'm not even sure I like the logo design anymore. So then I take them on that whole brand journey. And it's really about delving down deeper. I use an online app that was created for my developer and and I use branding cards to really map out and reflect the character of their business. And it's quite unique. No other designer uses it.
Mm.
It's mainly the system is really for coaches and consultants. So when I've got all of that insight and information, I put it all together in a brand mood board. And that brand mood board covers font psychology, color psychology, and metaphorical imagery so that my
Oh,
clients
wow.
really,
Mm,
yeah.
okay,
And so,
we'll unpack that in a minute.
yeah, we will. So that my clients really understand what a brand feels like. Now, in
Mm,
the past, when I sold logo design and branding, people were like, well, branding is just a logo, surely. It's like, no, it's more than that. It's about feelings and emotions. And how do you want your clients to feel when they come and visit your website? So, this branding board process is a really good starting point to really get that feeling and the emotion coming through before designing a logo and before designing a website.
gotcha. Yes, I mean it's. I still think in the UK we're still catching up a little bit with the states as far as what people's awareness of what branding is. I mean, you mentioned the logo
Mm.
thing, and that's quite a classic thing, isn't it? People think it's a logo.
Yeah, it's more than that. It's logo, it's tone of voice, it's how your copy is written, it's how
Hmm.
your images are portrayed on a website, it's the colours that are used, it's the fonts that are used, and
Yeah.
it's everything to create what I guess feelings and emotions.
Yeah, and of course, hopefully, in the centre of that, and the thing that is holding it all together is the What did you call them? The metaphorical
Metaphorical imagery.
imagery. Okay, so what does that
So
mean then?
So it's interesting. So I probably have two types of clients. I've got my literal clients. So take a catering company, for instance,
Hmm.
and the photography that is used is great. So it might be close-ups of food and drink and, maybe a wedding venue. That's
Mm.
very literal.
Yeah.
But when I'm working with, say, a consultant or a coach, that is the perfect opportunity for me to get very metaphorical. So it's
Mm.
turning the way they work into something usually in nature. So I bring something in nature. So if it's a coach that maybe takes their clients on a journey, what in nature is like a journey? So it might be a
Nice.
snail shell,
Yeah.
the little, the twisting of that shell, or it might be a fern uncurling. So that journey that they take their clients on. So it's about bringing that metaphor into that branding board, which then they can use that kind of imagery on their websites if they want.
That is so interesting. Yeah. So it's like using it as a signifier imagery to to get people thinking and talking about the business in a different way than just doing like a normal headshot might do or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's really about getting really creative, and I love getting really
Creative.
creative.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So what we're going to be doing in this program, we're going to be talking about what we can do as photographers to make your life easier and kind of things that you're looking for from a photographer, from the kind of images you're looking for that are going to land well on a website.
Mm.
And what triggered this is the fact that I know you're really into photography. I
Mhm.
remember a post you did a little while back talking about photography, and I thought it was such a passionate way you talked about it. I thought, well, let's hear what your view is.
Mhm. So I love, and I've always loved photography. Since the age of about 10, I had my first
Mm,
camera, and I
mm.
love those days when you could work with that film roll. And for me, it was always about capturing a moment ever since the age of 10. So actually, we've got a long line of, I suppose, hobbyists of photographers in the family. My mum's a photographer, my daughter's a photographer,
Oh wow,
and that's
okay,
what we do on our own time. So for me, growing
yeah.
up, we had a dark room in our house.
Oh, fantastic.
And
Yeah, well, that's
just
good.
there's something so special about
Yeah,
seeing that photo appear compared to now when you just take these photos, they're in the cloud and it's just instant. It was very, very different back then. Um,
yeah. I couldn't. I mean, it is very different. Times have changed, and it's hard not to be nostalgic. But you're right. The magic
mm,
of being in a dark room and seeing an image appear in front of your very
mm,
own eyes is something.
yeah,
Something. Yeah. That I would recommend that any photographer out there, if they
yeah.
haven't done it, would give it a go.
There's something very exciting about seeing that image appear rather than having so instant and digital nowadays.
And well, and also there's a lot of stress involved in it as well when you go to a dark room and you're waiting for that image to appear and it doesn't, and you just got a blank piece of
Yeah,
paper and think, uh-oh, what's gone
yeah,
wrong here?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's certainly a learning process.
So I did use quite a lot of photography in my graphic design course. I went
Yeah.
to University of the West of England in Bristol.
Yes.
So I use photography as the medium that I use to bring those ideas across. Do you know, once upon a time, I used to want to be a photographer as well. But I think trying to for me, it was always a struggle working with the settings. Love being creative, but when it got into the technical side, I
Mm,
would always use aperture priority and
yeah.
just struggled with manual and just playing around with it. And I used to get so frustrated. So yeah, for me, it's aperture priority. I stuck with graphic design and didn't really
Mate,
go down the
nothing wrong
photographer
with it.
route.
Look, it's all about ideas, Vicky. That's the main thing. Okay, so when a photographer hands you images for a website, what are some of the common mistakes that you see straight away?
Well, that's interesting. Because I work with photographers from the very beginning,
Yeah.
I don't really get the mistakes. So that's why I have to work really closely with a photographer from the very beginning, so we don't get the
Nice.
mistakes at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's making sure that the photographers are really understanding about the branding. So quite often I've been in meetings with photographers and the clients, so we get that message across very, very clearly. Sometimes I go on photo shoots with photographers, so I can help to art direct.
Nice.
So it's making sure that we don't have those mistakes at the end.
Yeah.
And when I work with photographers, they always send me through the high res images and the low res images. So we've got both. And I suppose one of the mistakes that might happen is when a photographer sends through those high res images, they don't get, the file size doesn't get reduced. And if those images get uploaded onto a website and they're huge files, I mean, it's not worth having a huge file on a website. It will just slow the website down. It needs to be 72 dots per inch. And without reducing quality, as small as possible, without reducing the quality, just so it speeds up the website.
And just while we're on that subject, oh, sorry, sorry, I just had a phone call coming.
Okay.
So just while we're on that subject, what kind of size file? So you say 72 DPI. What else do we need to think about?
I would always see, this is a struggle. It depends on the image. I would always try and get it down to 400 kilobytes.
400K. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So what's that, about 1,600, 2,000 across or something like that?
Yeah, it's about 2,000 DPI across. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, back in the day, it was a massive concern, wasn't it? But speeds, download speeds have gone up really fast these days, a lot faster. So I guess it's still not too much of a concern, but for you, it still is.
Yeah, it is, because you still get some people on slow internet.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
And actually, with me being in Northleach and out in the country, it's still a bit slower than everybody that lives in the city.
So let's go back to this conversation we're having with your photographer. What kind of things would you be discussing with them? Would you be discussing the set, the location, or would you just be giving a vibe? How would that work?
Oh, we go down deep. We've got to have the location right. So again, it's got to be in fitting with that company. So again, if they're a consultant, where do they work? Do they work from their office? Do they go and work in another venue? It's got to really be authentic and real life. And then with me working with colour, from the branding perspective, it's making sure that it's a little bit of colour popping going on. So for instance, if their core colour is maybe, I don't know, like a teal and an orange, is there any way we can bring a little bit of colour popping into a notebook or even a mug? Not necessarily their clothing, but I think that really gives something and brings across those branding colours into the imagery.
Yeah, that's right. It is, it's surprising when you get that shot on the website and it's got that, you say, that little pop of color. It just works so well when you see it with the logo, and the whole thing comes together. But I do think you can use it on clothing. I think if you're doing a headshot in a studio, you can have an accent of color in there, or even a block of color. Really, it depends on the color. But
And I think it depends if it's an individual. So if it's a solopreneur, they can definitely wear their branding colours. But I think if it's a company, so I work with a lot of companies with maybe sort of 40, 50 employees, you can't have them wearing all the branding colours. It gets a bit too much.
That's right. Exactly. That's very true. What other conversations would you be having? Would you be, I mean, let's just say the client is, I mean, it always seems to be bright and airy, but this to be different, I always think, why don't people shoot a bit darker, or not darker in exposure, but like in the evening or at night time or something like that, just to give it a different vibe?
Again, I think it depends on the character of their business. If their business comes across as that kind of vibe, then definitely. That's why branding work is so important, to make sure the photography comes through in the right way. And again, going down to whether you use a shallow depth of field or not. I really like that blurriness that comes through between that foreground object and the distance, or even creating the distance that's a little bit blurry, or if you want it crisp and clear. So it all creates that effect and creates that true branding element on a website.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I can see why those short depth of fields, shallow depth of fields would be appealing for a designer because you can put
Mm,
text on it very easily.
absolutely.
But I think this, possibly for a photographer, can be seen as being a bit overdone, isn't it? These very blurry
Yeah,
backgrounds, and of course, back in the day again, your background was part of the photograph. That was the environmental
mm,
portrait, and it would all
yeah,
seem to work together. But of course, it took a lot more time because you had to really think about
yeah.
copy. So let's just have a little chat about how copy words works with the image. What kind of thing are you looking for? You've already mentioned the bokeh, the depth field. What else kind of things would you
Mm.
be looking for?
Well, negative space is a good one.
Yes.
So
Positive.
make.
We should call that positive space.
Oh, did you?
I'm not quite sure why we call it negative. It's such a bad
It
connotation,
is
isn't it?
actually. I'm going to change my wording to positive space.
It's
Thank you
positive
for that.
space.
Yes, being such positive people, why are we not using that word? So yeah,
Right.
in fact, I was working with a photographer on a shoot down in Bath recently, and I designed the website, waiting for the content, and very specifically, I said on every bottom image of each page, we needed to make sure there was that positive space, whether it was a different coloured background, but a person to the left or the right, but
Yeah.
making sure there was that positive space, sorry, for copy,
That's right.
and it doesn't
It'll
have to
never
be.
catch on. Don't worry. You don't have to.
That's
It'll
why.
never catch on. I know that.
But yeah, it's really important for putting
Mm,
text, and it doesn't have to be a lot. I think the thing with copy, there is a tendency for people to put too much copy on a website. And how I design is I break up content with images to make sure you've got that flow all the way down the website, with imagery and color, breaking up content. Really, headings are really important,
mm.
so that that person can view the website as they scan all the way down. So less is more, definitely, in terms of copy and overlaying copy over images with positive space.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still think there's so much more scope with text and images. When you look at like a really high-end fashion magazine or whatever,
Mm,
and you see some really beautiful way that large text or it's been used in a very
mm.
graphic way. And I'm not really seeing that. I've seen it on a few websites more recently, but I've not. What's your thoughts on that? The way that
See, I think we live in such a busy world nowadays. And if that message doesn't come through
mm,
instantly, if it's too busy, we've got a busy image with lots of busy copy. If the message doesn't come through instantly, people are going to click off. I see some websites with a very high bounce rate, and that might be one of the reasons why, if it's
right,
just too busy. If your message doesn't come through quickly, people will bounce off. You've got to be able to guide people down the page of your website really, really quickly. I think it takes, is it it might even be a
yeah,
second
yeah,
now, two
yeah,
seconds, I think it is.
yeah.
That if people come on the website, if it's not what they were looking for, off they go straight away. You've really got to create that impact, and mainly with images, quite quickly, with a simple design, simple and effective design, I would say.
Yeah, and I guess with a website, it always is. It's an up and down scroll. Whereas
Yeah.
a photo book or a magazine is going to be obviously a
Mm,
left to right, right to left scroll.
yeah.
So that is the way we're interacting with it is different.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like. Are you thinking about the flip books? The flip books that you'd have
Well, I'm thinking
left to right.
just magazine layout,
Yeah.
as compared
Mm,
to a website layout. But even
mm,
so, I think the classic double page spread we see in a magazine with just like a small block of text in
yeah.
the corner. I still think that if you've got some great imagery and it has to come from there first, I guess there is possibly more scope for you as a designer to lay that into a website.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's an interesting. I think if I opened a magazine nowadays, there's so much more time spent
I think,
looking at.
yeah,
I think it's down to time, isn't
yeah,
it?
you're right. That's what you're saying, and that's a very valid
Yeah.
argument, isn't it, Peter? There's less time.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's very true. Well, let's just keep riffing, if we may, on the aspect of images. So we've
mhm.
already talked about lots of space in an imagery and
Yeah.
how and building that into it. What about the vertical landscape argument? it's, I mean, we are talking, it's a difficult one, that one, isn't it? Maybe a few words in that, Vic, if you may.
It is really difficult, that one, because obviously you've got site-wide header images. Obviously landscape is perfect, but I guess this might be one of the issues that might come through from a photographer, is if guidance hasn't been given and a portrait image comes through and the client thinks, oh, that's fine, but actually by the time you've scaled it out so it fits edge to edge and it's a photo of a person, that person is going to be huge in the header area. Fine if they're in the distance a little bit more and you can scale it up, but you've really got to think about how people or things are going to be photographed so that it fits the way you want it to into a website. And I think that's where art direction is really important with the photographer at the very beginning, so then you don't get those issues at the end.
Yeah, and I think it's, it's common now to think that if you shoot an image, it's got to be done in, certainly if it's going to be a hero image, it's got to be done in landscape, and it's got to be done in portrait mode as well, really. So, but I mean, what is the use? I mean, is it still 50-50 mobile phones?
Oh, I think it's gone up. No, I think it's gone up. I think especially with the younger generation now. I think it probably 60-40 actually, 60-40. And going up. Yeah, I do. So
then you add reels into that, etc. I mean, we really are in the sort of portrait preference really for the orientation of an image.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. For photographers, I think it's definitely shooting in landscape and portrait for every scenario.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, we talked about how the photographer works with you to create images for a client. What about the other way around? Can you say about what you notice about photographers' websites, the way they are put together? Any sort of tips you can pass on to us that you've noticed?
Well, do you know, I was thinking about, I suppose for all you listeners, there's just a simple 3-minute audit that they could do actually. They could have a look at their website and answer 3 questions. So for instance, here we go. So I thought, can a stranger tell what you do in 5 seconds? So it's really important to make it obvious who you help. So within 5 seconds, a visitor should know who you help, what you help them achieve, and why they should keep reading. So again, we're looking at how the busy lives that people are having really hook them in from the beginning and why they should keep reading. And too many websites talk about the business instead of the customer. So that's the first one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Very true, very true.
And then look at your website again, and does this sound like me and the clients I want to attract? So check whether your website still reflects your business, because businesses evolve and websites often don't. So if your business has grown or changed direction or attracts a different client, your website should reflect that.
Yeah, that's very, very true. In fact, just thinking of myself there, I'm sort of going to set aside August to have a little flip around on my website, because I'm developing my education side more. I'm also working more with commercial brands as opposed to personal brands, and my website doesn't reflect that. So I've set aside the month of August to sort of have a go at that, really, when things are a bit quieter.
It's a good time to do it. Yeah, I've got another one now. So the last one is it obvious what someone should do next? So give people one clear next step. So what do you want them to do? Do you want them to book a call with you? Discovery call. I guess a lot of photographers would book in a discovery call with their prospective clients. Do you want them to download a guide? Is there a lead magnet on your website? Or do you want them to just get in touch via a form or via email? So it's really important to have those clear call to actions on the page, throughout the page. What do you want someone to do when they get to the bottom of that page of your website?
Yeah, that's 3 really nice tips, and they'll obviously we'll highlight those in the transcript as well. So what about black and white? I just suddenly came into my head then. I had a question around it, but what about black and white photography? People, I remember doing a poll on LinkedIn ages ago, and people say, "Oh, we love black and white, but I would never use it for my business," which seems a bit of a shame, really. Why is that?
Oh, well, again, I love black and white photography. There's something so moody around it.
It's quite evocative.
And it is. I think, again, it's down to branding. So I think it depends on the company. It depends on the mood of that company as well. If they're a vibrant company with bright colours, they're not going to work with black and white photography. You just reminded me. Do you remember the days of colour popping where people would, if there was a black and white...
The other day, I saw one this morning on a Facebook post. I thought, oh my God.
Yes, you'd have a black and white photo and there might be a big red London bus. Oh, I remember those days. I have seen that happen. But yeah, I think it's all about your brand being reflected through in imagery. And I think that's the reason why not many black and white photos are shown on websites.
Yeah. Maybe things could change, couldn't they, Vicky? You want to stand out, you could go for a black and white. Or another one that I do for my clients sometimes is, I do two things. I tone their images very, very slightly, so they're going to match their brand or their color brand, their color wheel. So if it's blue is their corporate color, I might put a little blue tone on there so it fits in there. Another thing you can do is to take the black and white image and tone that blue as well. So you reminded
me of my graphic design days now. I remember fiddling around with duotones and monotones in Photoshop.
Exactly.
Gosh, that'd be great if that came back. See, for me, that feels like it's come from the 90s. I haven't even touched it since the 90s. That would be cool if that came back.
Yeah, well, obviously, you're the expert. I'm sort of putting my ideas forward. But where I see it, people do use it, is on that hero image. So just talk us through the hero image on a website. So it's, what is the? I mean, I do see more and more, and this is maybe more for personal brand than corporate, but it tends to be a portrait of somebody at the top on the masthead.
Not always the case. I think it's about where they are in situ, I suppose. Are they in a studio? Are they at work? Are they engaging in conversation? A lot of my clients are very relational. So if they're relational, bring that through in that header image. If you like to be able to talk to people, where's that other person that you're speaking to? And I think it doesn't have to be a static image of that person looking at the camera. Be creative with it. I think that's so important.
So important. And that's not easy, Vicky. It's not easy to do that. You're going to have some, it takes time working with somebody to get them relaxed so you can get really authentic images. You're not going to get it from like a headshot day or just going and getting a free headshot done. To get those images that are like, they just look like you really caught a moment that can go on the header, the main area of your website.
Takes a lot of time and planning. I think planning is probably really key for a photographer, with bringing in the branding elements. Get the planning right, and then it's about clicking away so you've got those moments, and even the hand gestures coming up, and but away from the camera, just making sure it looks authentic and not staring at the camera for that initial header.
Exactly, and that I think moving forward, I think with all the competition from AI and the squeezing of the business, I think those kind of images, which are difficult to take, are the kind of images that are going to be really useful for people.
Yeah, we don't want AI taking over any of our jobs.
Well, I don't think. I think AI might mean there's a massive uplift in people putting out content, but you still need original imagery to put on that content. I mean, it's not very good still, AI at creating imagery, I don't think.
No, you can still tell the difference now, can't you?
Just about. With headshots, maybe it's very, very close, like a static headshot like the one you're talking about. But if you want to go for something a bit beyond, like we're doing now, talking to each other with hand gestures and making it look real and catching that mid-moment, that is really difficult. And I think that's worth said. Go on, please.
I think it's about bringing that reality through. AI, for me, through imagery, it's not authentic. You want to bring that character of that person through and that connectivity. We are humans. We need to connect to people. Bring that through in the way you work and in your photography.
Yeah, and I just noting there, Vic. We've been talking now for half. Just come up to half an hour, and immediately it takes that long of a time for you to be more relaxed in front of the camera.
Yeah.
We're both in the camera, and you started using your hands more. And I think
Yeah.
these are the kind of images I think that we're looking more to the full, to the future with.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Really important. We need to stay ahead of those robots.
Yes. And again, those are the kind of images that you can use on websites a lot easier. I do think, though, what you did get to come up with those images, you do need direction.
Yeah, absolutely. From the very beginning, you've got to have direction, and planning, getting the props in.
Exactly.
It's not just a quick win with photography. I think the
No.
planning is key
Yeah.
to get that end photo that sits and works well on a website.
And knowing a strap line, what are we trying to say here exactly? Yeah, and presumably when you're working with your photographers and your clients, you're coming up with all these things and you're bridging that gap.
Yeah, and I work with copywriters, so I'll bring in a copywriter, so we can bring in the wording along with the imagery that fits in with the design, which all relate back to the initial branding work.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's that's the way it's got to be done, and you're going to get much more authentic, much more interesting websites, and much more interesting use of the imagery.
Absolutely.
Just as we come up to the last closing minutes, Vicky, anything else? Any other tips that you can pass over to our photographers?
Oh gosh,
Well,
do you know, it's an interesting one because I've been questioning my business over the next 10 years with AI, and I think just continue what you're doing, be authentic. We have to embrace AI, but keep ahead of it to keep our work in place and be passionate still about the work that we're doing without AI taking over. And what can you do that's different? And I think it's about really getting and understanding your clients really, really well, because a robot is never going to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, I think and that takes skill to do that, both for from all aspects of the industry, both from you as a designer, and creative, myself as a photographer. You've got to push yourself a little bit further, and maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this is what we need. So, but kick up the bum to get out there to create more interesting imagery and more interesting stuff for our clients.
Yeah. I mean, just like I've evolved my business. I started out 26 years ago as a logo designer and print designer. I hardly do any print nowadays. I've had to evolve with the web, and now I'll be evolving with AI, but still making sure I've got that human element to everything that I do.
Very cool, very cool. Just before we go, do you mentioned your passion for photography? Do you still any photographies that you look at that have really caught your eye, or anything you go and see? I'm sorry to put you on the spot there.
But, well, do you know, I actually belong to a local camera group, and there's a fantastic photographer in our group called Abby Moore. And she is an astrophotographer. Oh my goodness. She is working wonders. She's developing retreats in the Canary Islands, retreats up at Broadway Tower, and it all stemmed from our little photography group in Northleach. And honestly, check her out. I'm actually doing her website for her at the moment. She is just stunning. She wakes up at 2 a.m, drives down to Durdledore and does these amazing astro photos. So not a well-known photographer, I'll say, but she is going to come. She'll come up trumps one day.
And those kind of images still blow people away. It's a really good scholar. In fact, I know her work because I think you did mention her in a post, and I did have a quick look into her. It's into her imagery, and it's really nice. That's cool. That's a great place to end, Vicky. Thank you so much for coming on and being part of the programme and your valuable insights.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.